Welcome back. It's TYT's The Conversation, and it is Adrienne Lawrence. And this time I bring you a progressive congressional candidate, Imani Oakley. Thank you so much for joining us, Imani.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, so you are a candidate for New Jersey's 10th district, and I know you're challenging Representative Donald Payne Jr. Now, I want to know what distinguishes you from your current opposition?
Well, number one, I'll actually show up to work. Donald Payne actually has the third lowest attendance rate out of all Democrats and one of the lowest attendance rates out of both Republicans and Democrats. So he barely even shows up to work. That's number one. And then when it comes to issues that actually matter, I will also make sure I'm constantly on the right side of history. Donald Payne Jr. has a terrible record when it comes to LGBTQ plus rights. And in fact, in 2012, in an interview, he was asked, do you support gay marriage? And his response was, I'd have to think about that. I can't answer that at this time. This year alone, there were about 16 bills on the floor of Congress that dealt with LGBTQ plus rights, including a bill to ban the horrendous practice of conversion therapy. And until my campaign came out and publicly criticized my opponent for not having signed on to any of them, he was not signed on to one of them. When Trump Republican Jeff Van Drew, as well as other members of the Jersey delegation, were all signed on to at least two or three of those. Similarly, his record with regards to immigrants' rights is also very abysmal. He continued to vote when Jersey had our ICE facilities up and running. He continued to vote to bring federal funding to those facilities, despite being asked specifically to stop voting to do that by immigrants' rights groups. And also, he's very inconsistent when it comes to his votes on equal pay. Some years he'll vote for equal pay for Black women and brown women. Other years he won't. It's really sad because a district like this that honestly has so much need. As of 2019, we were number one in the nation for foreclosures. We have some of the highest rates of childhood asthma in the nation. We have a severe issue with lead in our drinking water, with lead in the paint of old homes and apartment buildings. This district deserves somebody who will show up. And I will absolutely be that person. I have worked in government and politics on the federal, statewide, and grassroots levels. I was a political organizer here in New Jersey for years. So I not only know the issues, but I know exactly what the people need in order to fix them.
All right, well, it definitely sounds like the individuals who are citizens of New Jersey's 10th district, that they do have a lot of needs to be fulfilled and that they're not necessarily getting those things done. Because yeah, you did come out of the gate pretty strong about Donald Payne Jr. It sounds like he's just not here to do his job, really.
No, absolutely not. And that's what tends to happen when somebody inherits the seat. So his father actually held the seat before him. And it was basically a coronation when his father, unfortunately passed. It was basically a coronation and it was just like, oh, you will have this seat. And when people get seats in that manner, they don't respect the office. They don't respect the job. They don't respect the fact that you have to, this isn't your birthright. Like you have to show up and actually do work for people in Washington. And so, it's typical that we see that with establishment corporate Dems where they inherit a seat, they keep it warm, and they are so entitled to it that they just feel as though they don't have to show up to work. But you're gonna find out very soon that assuming that was a big mistake on his part.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully he'll find something that speaks more to his skill set. But let's talk about yours, because I know you're a longtime progressive activist and you are now truly getting into the game to make change for New Jersey's 10th district. So I'd love to know, what are maybe 2 or 3 things that are just key issues that you will be addressing when you may win this election?
Yeah, absolutely. So number one are environmental issues. In this area, despite other than the things that I just mentioned, the highest rates of childhood asthma, the lead in the water. Recently, we got hit really, really hard by Hurricane Ida. We had extreme amounts of flooding here. And a big issue with that is not only is obviously our weather getting more extreme due to climate change, but also we do not have infrastructure that is prepared to, one, lead us into a green future, and two, also just kind of kill some of the hard impacts that we're seeing now due to heavy climate change. So environment is going to be key. I am definitely an advocate of a Green New Deal and making sure that we give people well-paying, union-backed jobs to help change our infrastructure and make it green, especially in an area like this. We're like an old industrialized area. So with that, you get the old piping, you get those old bridges, you get that type of the old infrastructure that really wasn't built with, protecting people from flooding or other disasters in mind. And it's time we fix that. Climate change is here. It's real and it's getting scarier and scarier. The house that I'm speaking to you from right now, I've actually lived in for about 27 years of my life, really all of my life, except for 4 years where I had to move out because of some issues surrounding foreclosure and my home. But during that time, my basement has never flooded. Okay, mind you, nearly 30 years in one resident. And we've had heavy rainstorms. I mean, we've had snowstorms, all of that. My basement has not flooded once. This year, Hurricane Ida, my basement flooded for the first time. Climate change is here and it's getting more and more drastic. So I am certainly an advocate of a Green New Deal, and environmental issues will be very high on my priority list. Number 2 is housing. Again, I mentioned earlier, as of 2019, we were number 1 in the nation for foreclosures, mostly affecting older Black and brown homeowners. Me and my family nearly lost my childhood home to foreclosure. It is a real issue, housing stability in this area. And then also you have, not only do you have, the home ownership and foreclosure issue, but you have constantly rising rent. We're an area that's very, very close in proximity to New York. And there are a lot of gentrification happening in the cities in the area, such as Newark and Jersey City and others. And it's really pushing people either, out of their neighborhoods or onto the street. And it's really, really concerning. And so housing will be another really, really huge one on my list. One thing that most folks don't know about New Jersey is that we have the most corrupt ballot design in the entire nation. It's called the ballot line. And in that ballot line, basically establishment Dems are placed on one long column with the most popular name at the top. So you'll have like Joe Biden at the top, Cory Booker, and then on down. And what this does is it helps boost down ballot establishment Dems who are running against real progressive, true challengers. But it tricks the voter psychology into going straight for that ballot column and voting straight down it. We are literally the only state in the country that uses this ballot design. So it's that in conjunction with all of the other voting rights issues that we're seeing across the country right now. I want to be able to add my voice to the fight to make sure we're upholding our democracy and protecting folks' right to vote. And if we don't have that, we really don't have anything.
Yeah, that definitely is very true. And I think we're finding that out even more so as we see these continued attacks on voting rights. And so when it comes to making change and looking at the current hurdles, because I know you just addressed the 3 things that really you're going to come through the door day one and do your best to change. But for the existing hurdles in the infrastructure, what do you really anticipate?
Oh, well, we'll see. The winter's coming. So, we're going to have to see what holds up and what doesn't. And then if we have excess rain when it comes springtime, we'll also have to see what's going on with that flooding because, fixing the sewage and the lead in the pipe issue, that's a multi-billion-dollar issue, right? And so far, the bulk of that money has come from municipal and state. And Donald Payne has decided, since he has a challenger, to try and bring some money to it finally. But it's really going to take somebody fighting to get those federal dollars into the district so those pipes can be replaced. That's really, really going to be very crucial. And then also fighting for a Green New Deal in the sense where we can have federal jobs, a federal jobs guarantee with well-paid jobs, union-backed jobs for not only fixing things like the sewage system, but also fixing railways, fixing bridges, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll see. The winter is here. And then after that, we'll have obviously the heavy rainfall that typically comes with spring. But climate change is really, really getting worse and worse. And we really have to do something about it. And it's no longer, it never really was, but especially now, we cannot slap on just politics to this anymore. It can't be that it's like, oh, the leftists want this really good thing. We can wait for, we can be incrementalist and do this slowly because climate change is not moving slowly. It's not going to wait for us to kind of come around politically. We need to move on it now.
Absolutely, and that is something that definitely needs to be addressed. And I know at the federal level, there is at least talk of, hey, bringing things up to speed, at least when it comes to infrastructure, and to make those necessary changes so that you can bring a lot of the buildings and whatnot up to date to bring people into cleaner living. And that's something that's very important, I would imagine, for you, given that you live in the Garden State and that's what you want to serve. So at least keeping that motto alive would be great. But in terms of what you really want people to know out there, when they hear about you, they think about voting for you, what is it that you want to resonate with them when they go into the ballot box?
That not only do we in District 10 in New Jersey deserve better, but we can actually have better. You know, New Jersey has a Tammany Hall machine style of politics where we have these party bosses who really truly exploit neighborhoods of color, working class neighborhoods. And people have, gotten so down about that they feel it's kind of impossible to overcome. And I want people to know it absolutely is not impossible. I've already outraised my opponent 2-1. I've gotten endorsements from national organizations, organizations in the district, sitting elected officials, activists, nonprofit leaders. We really, really can do this. We do not have to sit here and allow our neighborhoods to be treated as financial and political playgrounds. We can win, and we're going to win June 7th, 2022.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Imani, if people want to support your campaign, where can they find more information?
They can go to my website at Oakley4, that's F-O-R, Congress.com. You can check out more about me, my background, and my platform. You can also follow me on all social media at Imani Oakley, NJ-10.
Thanks so much. Imani Oakley, progressive congressional candidate for New Jersey's 10th district. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.